Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name's Jen. I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, are Brian and Henno. Hey, guys.
Howdy.
Yo, yo, yo.
Howdy. So, guys, who wants to start us off this week?
I didn't get on the city council.
Oh, I didn't either. Makes you feel better.
Did you get a nice letter?
No.
Oh man, they're terrible over there. I got a nice letter over here.
Well, at least you got a letter.
You got a nice letter, at least. Well,
it was personalized. You know, maybe the city administrator wrote it, but either way, it was personalized to our meeting, which was nice. Mm-hmm. So they had 16 people contact them.
Yeah.
16. He interviewed 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's weird.
So,
people.
Okay. And am I disappointed? Yes, I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna wait to see who got picked before I make an opinion. Or
right.
You know, like. Well, you know what it is? It's kind of like, do I want to do, you know, like when you're, when you're disappointed and you can either do something about it or nothing about it, meaning not that you're going to actually do anything about it, but just like how you settle it within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, like how you decide to just, you know, you either just let it go, like it's not worth it, or like maybe it makes you, you know, think about the future a little bit, or, you know, whatever it is, you know, like that kind of thing. And that's what I decided. I'm like, I want to see who he picked first. And then I'll decide whether, you know, whether I should just, you know, forget about it, or whether I should take something to heart, maybe.
Or start following them around, booing them everywhere.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Well, that.
A little stalking.
Yeah.
You know.
They're at the grocery store. Everything they pick up, boo! You know.
That'd be hilarious.
You drink Pepsi? Boo!
Just walking around with a sign.
That is not
a sign that says Henno was robbed.
Don't you? The other side says, "Don't you know who I am?"
That is not a positive way of handling rejection. We all know.
I don't know. It seems pretty fun to me.
It's fun, yeah, but not
Yeah,
the right way to handle rejection.
No.
Of course.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Like these are these great gut check moments for me, because what was great is our rehearsal schedule got moved around, and so I was able to go to my men's group on Thursday night, which was awesome. I hadn't been there in months, and so the topic of like will came up. You know, like pushing your will on. You know, like basically forcing that square peg through round holes, and how do you avoid it and everything. And
it's weird how that's been like bouncing around a lot lately in our conversations in this show, and now that
totally has.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I was like, well, you know, my issue is anytime I walk into a situation, I got this little thought bubble that pops up that says, "Don't you know who I am?" You know? Because I ran off that idea of like, you know, that I can either filter my conversations through through the point of, and I related it to a higher power by saying, you know, we all want to, one of the things, you know, like when we're for myself, when I was trying to change how I do things, right? I'm trying to let go of my ego. I'm trying to stay out of outcomes. I'm trying to stop exerting my will. I stop expecting people to behave like I want them to behave, you know, feeling like being right is the most important thing, even knowing that when you sometimes end up right, it doesn't feel good. You know, like you win, but you didn't win.
Yeah.
But, you know, back when my ego was, you know, running the show, a win is a win. But today a win isn't a win. You know, if I end up being right, it doesn't make me necessarily feel good about it, because maybe how I went about doing it I was using too much of that will, right?
Yeah.
So I was trying to relate it to the fact of like, one of the things that, you know, I tried to apply is this idea of like, okay, well, there's a higher power, and that's like the best part of this is the best Henno that Henno can be, and then there's just my natural, you know, me, which is the lower power, you know,
the lower power,
right?
Oh.
Like when I'm making the decisions, lower power is fully in effect.
Right.
But the thing about it is like, that's all fine and dandy, but how do you actually do it? You know, it's one thing to say, I want to be the best me always, meaning I want to be compassionate and understanding and listen to people and, you know, and be open to, you know, things like that. And the one thing I thought about it is like, well, if I like drop this like vision of like a higher power between me and the other person, and I go, okay, I'm not talking to this human being right now who has flaws, who I may have judgments about and all sorts of various things. I'm talking to the purest form of whatever, spirit, nature, anything like that. So how would I speak to that? You know, I wouldn't be a jerk. I wouldn't be judgmental. I wouldn't say, you know who I am, because, well, supposedly God would know everything that I was, or, you know, if I was my purest self, it really wouldn't matter, because I would have humility in abundance. I would have understanding in abundance. I would have an open mind in abundance if I was at my highest, you know, form of myself. And so we're talking about that, and how it reflects back to this whole situation is I truly believe the higher form of myself just takes the decisions as it is and doesn't feel bad about it. But there's a part of me that wants to feel kind of crappy about it and be a little bit of a victim.
You know what though?
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think you're, you know, it's like, I don't want this to sound like condescending or anything, but it's like, I think you're allowed that, you know, meaning like anybody is, you know, not that I'm giving you permission, you know, like, do you know who I am? But
Thanks
you know,
for confirmation bias, our topic for tonight.
Right. No problem. That's what I'm here for. But I think, there is that element to it. That it's like when something like this happens to you, it's like, I think, we just sometimes need that moment where we kind of just stomp our feet a few times and, in the corner, and then, okay, fine. Now I'll be I'll go back to, whatever I was doing before. But you just kind of gotta
living on cloud 9,
throw that little fit and then be back, and then, all right, I'm over it. Yeah.
He is the timing and the placement of the little fit.
Mm-hmm.
That's, and you know what? That's it. Is like I'm going to express it here. I'm going to express it with some of my friends, but that's all the only place it needs to go.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need to go start. And, the people that I honestly know are that, and I said what I basically shared last week. It's like, okay, well, 16 people, or I should say 15 people who did not put themselves up in front of the voters for scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
And that's where my victim mentality comes in.
Right.
Sure.
It's like, I did this.
Yeah.
It should count for something.
Yeah.
Really? Based on what?
Well, here, let me take the flip side.
Not reality.
Well, you didn't win, so clearly no one wanted you then. So, no, I'm kidding.
But seriously, that's it. That's seriously it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is it. It's it.
Yeah.
You sit there and you go, okay, that didn't work out. Put in all this effort. Okay, well, maybe I get a consolation prize. Nope, you don't get the consolation prize.
Well, you got a letter. You got a letter. I mean,
I did. I got a really nice letter. Yeah. And it was interesting. He actually mentioned something. There was something to the effect of like not being discouraged, or it wasn't written in that form. It was written more of a positive way.
Yeah.
Like that. It was an affirmation to let me know that this will not keep me from being involved in my city. And I'm like, oh yeah,
I'll show you. No.
You know what I mean? Like it was like presented as one of those, and I know none of this is going to really.
Yeah.
You know that? Because I'm feeling like
I'll tell you what, that whole thing there though gave me a really good idea. I'm sure this is probably documented in some book on like how to like do power moves on people or whatever. But it's like I'm gonna remember if I get into a position where I'm doing a lot of like interviewing and hiring, that to take a note or 3 for every interview that I do. So if I send a letter back out, I can just put something from the interview into the letter. So it feels
one sentence.
Yeah, so it feels super personal, and I could literally just tune out the rest of the time.
Oh, yeah. I seriously, I feel like Heather wrote a letter and just she put in 2 lines.
Yeah. Okay, sir, I need you to sign this real quick. He stops playing with his Star Wars figures. Fine. Oh man!
It really is just a reminder that there's no finish line, and I'm still a human being, and I'm going to be disappointed.
Right.
And then really, it comes down to it. It is I'll get around to it, but it's my choice as always. It's my prerogative of how I want to react.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it really is that do I believe it's my responsibility to act in a positive way, or do I not? And hopefully the right angle will prevail.
Right.
That's why I have you here to remind me that I should just stick it to him.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Let's go ahead and get do you know who I am.com registered and we'll start your campaign for next time.
That's so good.
No, I mean it seriously. Here's the pitch, right? We just be like, do you know who I am? I'm Heno and I'm running for blah, 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 right? You just take it the other way. And the whole time.
I'm just entitled.
No, not entitled. No, not entitled at all. You're just like, no.
I think I should be.
Well, I mean, that's the inside joke. The part that you're portraying to everybody else is, hey, you may not know who I am. Let me tell you why you should know who I am.
Well, I know who I am.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And there you go. You just pitch that whole thing. People eat it up. Be fine.
When the reality is I'm a victim and I really
totally.
feel like I'm
totally.
Yeah. The position.
You have your dogs in the video with you. I mean, who could resist that?
Exactly. Of
right?
course.
Forget it.
Why would you step on this poor creature? Why would you do this to him?
Bye. So other than that, how's everything else? How's the band going and the practices and stuff?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, well, last week it didn't happen, but that's right. I ended up the next day. What was it? Oh yeah, so Monday, I didn't go to work, and I just felt totally fatigued. And one of my bandmates, he felt that same way. We played on Saturday, and he said that he just had like 2 days of just total fatigue. Well, Monday I woke up and I'm just like, I generally, as much as I'm not happy to get up, I'm getting up with a purpose. I'm going to work.
Yeah.
You know, some days might be slower, faster, but I'm going to work. And I woke up Monday like going, kind of don't feel like it. And so, I got through the day and I'd spent a lot of time sitting on the couch. And then the next day I was like, okay, now I'm going to work. I had 2 cups of coffee. 7:30 hit. I emailed that I'm not going into work. I crawled back into bed and I slept till 1 o'clock.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I don't do that. So yeah, it was like, and those ones where you're sitting around the house and you're feeling like you're just a lazy slob and like, man, you're just totally blowing this off. But then you like get up and like try to like put some clothes on and actually leave. And you're like, I'm not feeling well. That's what it was like,
right.
Where it's like in my brain, I felt like there's nothing wrong with you. Go do it. Like I had to go to the grocery store and get something, a prescription. And like, as soon as I got in the car, I'm just like, I'm not all here,
Wow. So it was just like a 48-hour bug?
Yeah, like 48-hour thing. And then, I went to work the next day. By the afternoon, I was fine, a lot of Red Bull. But, Friday morning I got up and I went out and Angela invited me to come up and work out with her at this new health club she's working at. And so I got up there on Friday and just had a great day. And like I said, went to my men's meeting on Thursday and I had a great week. Oh, and then my DJ'd our sober party on Saturday night, which was a blast last night, little Halloween party. And it was actually a really, really fun and great week. So
awesome.
Sounds like it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I'll save you for last, Brian. Very uneventful again. I hate to say that. I guess my life is getting pretty quiet right now. But I am starting my Thanksgiving prep, which is always fun. Trying to get ready. This is going to be the first year that I'm hosting at my house. So I'm trying to be as mentally and physically prepared as I can be as early as I can be. So I know I'm going to have anxieties about having people in my home that I've not had in my home yet. The interior judgments that I make of myself and of my surroundings and of myself. I have to make sure that I come to terms with those are my reflections of what other people are thinking. That's not what other people are thinking. You know what I mean? It's like, cause I get in my own head. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna, the carpet's not good enough.
Yes. I remember this from the last time yeah.
So I go through this whole thing. So I'm starting early. I'm getting myself prepared ahead of time and I'm fixing a couple things that I want to fix that I know are bothering me. And then other than that, I'm doing my little mantra of, these are people who love me. These are people who care for me. These are not people who judge me. And just keep repeating that over and over and over and over and over in my head. So eventually, maybe it'll become more routine and I can actually start changing my thought patterns. Not there yet, but that's my goal. And that's something I'm working towards. So, that's kind of a big thing that I've been kind of focused on. Other than that, it's been a lot of work, just as usual, just a lot of work and just trying to make sure that I fit in all my mental health, my sleep, my, positive energy, my gratitude lists and stuff like that. Just trying to make sure I keep up with everything, my meds, and make sure everything is falling in line in my routine. So it does become a routine and it becomes second nature to me to kind of keep going through these motions and these paths. So getting there.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. Well, that's
nice.
Yeah. That's the way to do it, rather than.
How are your dogs?
They are fabulous, running around like crazy men right now. But So I don't know if you can hear them in the background. Hopefully you can't. But they decided they want to play hockey with the ball.
That's why I was asking, because I'm like, okay, I haven't heard them in a while.
Yeah.
I got rid of them. No, of course not.
Yeah.
No, they're doing great. They're running around behind me right now as we speak.
Cute.
Yay. So how about you, Brian?
Well, this week was my first testosterone injection of me doing it myself, and that went mostly well. You
cried like a little girl?
No, I didn't cry that much.
Okay.
No. I screwed up at first because I didn't realize, because I'm silly like this. When I was putting the needle into the vial to draw the testosterone out, I wasn't thinking about it, and I was putting the needle in all the way. And when you do that, all you're going to draw is air. And I couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting any testosterone until then it hit me, and it was like, physics, you dummy, you know? Like, you can't draw liquid when you're above the liquid like that. So, when I, slid the needle down further, then all of a sudden it was fine, I did waste a needle doing that though, because, it says not to puncture more than one time, and I did it 3 times, but, I just, especially with being the first time, I was kind of like, I don't, this has been out for a while. It's touched the top of this thing multiple times, even though I cleaned it with an alcohol swab, whatever. So, no big deal. I just have to get more before I do it again. And my hand was shaking a little bit after I switched the needle, so I sat there for a minute to, calm down, because the last thing I want to try to do is put a needle in my leg while my hand's shaking. Cause it even says, they told me, and it says online when you're reading about it, it's like, when you do it, just one quick motion, just bang, and,
really? Just like whack it?
Yeah, pretty much. Just boom. And, not really hard, not like you're, but just do it in one motion. And then, so I do that, and hurt myself a little bit because my hand was still shaking a little, and it doesn't feel great when you have a needle in you and your hand shakes.
Imagine.
And that testosterone is harder to push the plunger down on than I thought. And the nurse told me that it's, she's like, it's not like pushing water through there. She's like, it's pretty thick stuff. And, she was not wrong. It was at first, cause at first I'm doing it real gingerly, cause I don't want to they also tell you, you don't just like put all of it in at one time. You want to slowly do it, so I'm trying to go slow, and I'm like, okay, well, this is barely moving, so, but yeah, anyway, it went pretty well, and I was all proud of myself cause, it didn't bleed afterwards, which is a good sign. And it didn't hurt, other than when the needle moved around. That's the part that hurt. But it only hurt for, while it was doing that, basically.
Sure.
But later the next day, and today still, it's now my thigh's hurting like it did before. So, and I was reading online about it, and it seems pretty common, but I'm gonna do some more, watch some more videos and stuff and see if maybe, because it seems like I'm probably missing the point, missing the spot, cause I can't remember which it is off the top of my head. I think it's that you want to hit, what is it? You want to hit muscle, not the fat, or you want to hit the fat, not the muscle, whichever it is.
Not sure.
It sounds like I'm hitting the opposite. So, and that's why it hurts, basically.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, yeah. So, it's probably going to take a few times to get used to it. The needle thing is going to be tough for me, I think, every time. I think my hand's going to shake every time I go to do it, but, whatever. At least I didn't make any huge snafus, waste a bunch of testosterone or,
yeah,
anything like that. So
success.
Yeah. At least it seemed like it. So, as far as I know, it was. It was weird though, because also when I went to start, it was different stuff. Like when I was at the urologist, they had like a big syringe and, just one, and then they switched the needles. Well, when I got mine from the pharmacy, the needles or the syringes, there's a syringe on each needle. So I was like, okay. And then I was like, I guess I just don't need the other syringe because I have to switch the needle. Cause once you pull the testosterone in there, that other syringe is really useless,
Yeah.
So, it's like, I don't really see a reason to save them. It's kind of sad, it's like really all I need is the needle. It's such a waste to get the syringe too. But anyway, so yeah, that was, I was very relieved when I got done,
Nice.
This is over and it's the first time. So again, now the next time I do it, I can go, I've done this, whereas that time I had never done it. She didn't have me do it at the doctor's office, which I think was a mistake. I think they should have had me do it.
They should have had you do it.
Yeah. So, cause I think that was honestly the reason I was so nervous was because of that. I personally had not walked through all the steps, so anyway.
That's funny. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense. Like, hey, maybe I should have done it once.
Maybe. No. Okay. Well, that's why I said, I thought she was just showing me where to hit on the leg, when she did it. And then she goes, okay, you're all done. And I'm like, what? She'd already done it. I'm like, okay. So,
are you definitely? Have you really started feeling the effects of having the hormone in you?
Yeah, I feel quite a bit different than I did before, which is nice. Yeah, there's some definite like negative side effects to it. Like, I'm itching a lot, and I don't know if it's that or maybe an interaction with my other medicines or something. But I know. And I've noticed that I've, gotten some back knee out of it, which sucks. It's not bad, but it's like, yeah. But other than that, I mean, they did tell me I could lose my hair, which sucks. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Now, apparently that is one of the side effects, though, is you can lose your hair from,
really?
Yeah, too much testosterone.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, the other thing, and this is more, like for this show, is our weather here has just been bleh.
Has.
And my mood has matched our weather as it tends to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have not wanted to get out of bed. I mean, I had been feeling like my depression, I'd been doing really well with it. And then it was like, apparently my depression just went on a vacation and decided to come back. So like this whole last week, it's been hard for me to get out of bed. Honestly, if it wasn't for us doing this today, I don't know if I'd probably still be in bed. So I have therapy tomorrow, which is perfect timing, so I can go in and talk with her about that. Although I know what it is, you don't have to look for a huge catalyst for it. It's, even though I've been kind of in a funk lately anyway, but it's, it's seasonal for the most part. This is, like I said, you go outside here, it's been kind of rainy, cold, overcast. It's just, unfortunately, once we hit fall in this area, there's pretty much no sun until like spring. So,
We have a few days sprinkled in there, but you're right. For the majority of the time, it's gray or overcast.
Yeah. So it's, especially once all the like leaves fall off the tree and stuff, there's not even like greenery on the trees to look at, it's just blah everywhere.
It really is.
So, I think that's, that it's mostly that. I mean, a little bit's some other stuff I talked about in the last few episodes, but so of course I'll talk about all of it with her. I'm not going to only talk about part of it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I am really happy that that's tomorrow because, like I said, it's perfect timing, feeling like I'm really veering off the road here at the moment. And, as far as this stuff is going and, it's time for a good nudge back. So hopefully that'll straighten that out. Trying to think. I think that's about it for me. Looking around, see if I had anything else written down, but there was something else, but I don't remember what it is. So,
Okay.
Good enough.
No problem. We can always go back later if you think of it.
Nah.
Well, our discussion today, I don't know, Hanno, do you want to start us off? I know you've been starting us off on quite a bit, but...
It's Hanno's job now.
Hanno gets us started. What do we got?
What y'all don't realize out there is, we start talking about an hour before we start recording, and usually the question at some point is, after some catch up, is, so anyone got a topic?
Exactly.
Pulling back the curtain a little bit. It's amazing what we do, though, isn't it? Unbelievable. Now you thought we were professionals, huh? Like we arranged this stuff days in advance with all of our notes.
Every once in a while. Every once in a while, like, what was it, a few weeks ago, or within the last, like, month and a half, I remember sending something to you guys going, hey, I have a topic for this week, and I sent, like, a thing out to you. But, yeah, I've gotten really bad about it. I used to do that pretty regularly on here.
I know, me too. I was thinking about that today. I'm like, I need to start doing more research.
Yep.
I like the... it's great to have topics and stuff, but the spontaneity of discussing it, I think is really, it's what, to me, it's what I enjoy about a podcast.
Yeah, me too.
Rather than something totally rehearsed. So, and, I already mentioned a little bit about confirmation bias, and the reason that we're going to talk about that tonight is because of something that I read today about basically about the tragedies that we have had in the news for a week now. And a friend of mine who is a professional in the brain health field basically just made a statement online that I really resonated with. And what ultimately happens in these situations is mental health gets brought in, and especially when someone wants to bring up some sort of a legislation. It doesn't matter what it's about, but someone says, well, that's not what the problem is. The problem is mental illness. And my friend said that's not the issue here. It's confirmation bias. These people have legitimate angers. Maybe they've been hurt in some way. They have fear. They have something in their lives, and they have purposely sought out other people that believe in what they believe. And, they advertise it. They throw it out there. They make it very clear that this is something that they are passionate about. There's intention there. There's desire there. And they find others that reinforce their beliefs, and they can live in this space long enough until it just gets amplified. It has nothing to do with being mentally ill. And she said that it does a disservice to the people that actually suffer from true mental illnesses. And I just was like, right on, that is it. And then today I heard the mayor of Pittsburgh actually say that what happened there was an irrational act. And based on that same standard, I say, no, it wasn't an irrational act. It was very rational in this person's mind, because they are surrounded by people that reinforce the fears, the anger, the hatred, whatever it is. And it's something that I want to share out there is, if you see someone start to blame mental illness for these things, remind them that it has nothing to do with mental illness. That this was actual, there was thought put into these acts. And there's a greater issue here. And who knows what happens with it, but one thing for sure is there has to be I'm trying everything I can in my life to avoid confirmation bias. Now, of course, I have it. I choose it. There are certain things I cannot be around, and I can't be around someone talking about partying, right? I'm literally that right there. I bias myself right away. There are certain things that that I don't care to hear from a politics standpoint, because I know it's BS.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to listen to it. Okay, that's bias. That's me blocking out someone's opinions. And yes, I have it in my life. On the other hand, I don't want to absolutely surround myself with people that are like-minded thinkers.
Yeah.
And so I like, for those of you who haven't experienced my Facebook feed, it is the place where I get to vent about politics. And I have friends on there that the other friends go, why are you friends with this person? And I have said, because I do not want to be surrounded by like-minded thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have someone that comes in here and questions me.
Yes.
Or challenges our belief systems. It is what these horrible acts were done by human beings who didn't have anyone challenge their belief systems, or they tuned them out completely.
Yeah.
And it's something that I believe, I see it in my own life, and it could be minor things like, making some minor life decisions to making major life decisions. And it's something I need to be aware of is, am I truly opening myself up to hearing all of the realm of possibilities, or am I seeking out the people that are going to give me the answers that I want to hear?
Which is something that
Absolutely.
most people do. By the time they seek out someone else, when they seek out their opinion, really generally what you're looking for is confirmation bias. Like most of the time people actually have their mind like mostly made up. You're just kind of wanting someone else to, legitimize what you're, confirm your bias. It just confirm your decision in the matter. Like if you go to somebody and you're like, hey, should I block? Like, I'm thinking I should do this. And they go, oh yeah, that's a great move. That's what I thought too, like that kind of, and you're like, and, it's just, I think by nature that just really is what we do. I've read various stuff over the last year that talks about not just in politics, but no matter what it is, sports, like you gravitate towards people who like your teams. You're going to talk more with people who like your team. Whatever it is, art, whatever, you're going to gravitate toward people who like music, the kinds of music that you like. If you love metal, you're probably not talking to people who love opera as much, or whatever else, it's kind of everywhere. Like you said, Henno, it's really difficult to avoid unless you are reading your path, like you're really looking for it. And one other thing real quick is when you mentioned the whole mental illness thing and blaming these kind of atrocities and stuff on that, is the thing that jumps out at me was back when John Oliver talked about this, when he talked about how the media handles mental illness. And if you haven't watched it, I'll have the link to it in the show notes. And again, you can feel how you feel about John Oliver, but at least open your head and listen to what he's saying on that. Because a lot of these people who've done these things are not actually mentally ill. So that's been a scapegoat. And it, like Henno said, it does a great disservice to those who do, because if I tell somebody I have a mental illness, you get a weird look from people, because now they're like, well, what kind?
Yeah, and are you going to do that same thing?
Yeah. And
guilt by association.
Right. And that's totally unfair to everyone with mental illness.
And there's a sister to the confirmation bias, which is crowd mentality, which is they go hand in hand. And I think that's another part of stuff going on. Basically, when you're taking the crowd mentality, I'm sorry, I forgot completely where I was going with this. I love it. Pulling the curtain back a little bit. But crowd mentality is when there's an emotional situation, something happens on stage or wherever there happens to be a grouping of people, and it's an emotional state that gets passed from one person to another, and everybody in the crowd pretty much picks up on this emotional state, and they kind of grow together. So it's, you know, whether it's anger, or you see it a lot of times with anger, and people get angry together and this big mob forms, and that's where bad things can happen. And that's kind of the crowd mentality. It's like-mindedness, that when it gets together and you don't have that outside influence to kind of encourage things to go one way or another. So that's kind of, I would consider that kind of like a sister to the confirmation bias, because confirmation bias is more one-on-one, or, you know,
it's internal. You know, the one thing I do want to say about confirmation bias is it's okay to have a bias.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, that's one of the things. It's like, I don't want to give this impression that nobody should have a bias. No, you should have a bias. It's very difficult to make decisions if you don't have already some sort of a preconceived, you know, angle of some sort. If I'm looking to buy a certain car, I'm generally already have some sort of a bias towards that car. Now, I might look at others and see if it dissuades me, but to begin with, I have made a kind of a proposition with myself. You know, it's like in a way, it's kind of like scientific theory. It's like, okay, this is my theory. I feel like this is the right whatever for me, whatever decision it is. And I think it's absolutely something that you know, there's nothing wrong with having bias. It's just a matter of when it becomes a crutch and it doesn't work, you know, it's not working. Like if your thought process is leading you in the wrong way all the time, and you're not learning to, you know, bounce your ideas off of others. And that was the one thing I really appreciated about being involved in 12-step programs, is besides being on a group and also one-on-one level, you know, it's always being encouraged that you talk things through with people, that you bounce ideas off of others, that you don't go out there on your own, because you're in a period of transition. You know, that's what I was told. You know, and I agree with that. And so I just wanted to, you know, to kind of put that little disclaimer in there.
Gotcha. Absolutely.
You're totally right, because no matter what it is, like I had said, you know, like we all have, like, you know, like Yankees, Red Sox kind of a situation, you know, it's like if you're a Red Sox fan, there's nothing wrong with being around more Red Sox fans. That's perfectly normal and fine. And, you know, and we're much like, and I hate to compare these things, but the fanatical part of it is where there's huge similarities when you take politics and sports, is when you get to the point that the thinking is then turning toward potentially harming someone else, it's a problem. When you start looking for confirmation in other people that it's okay to go harm someone, this is a problem. If you're talking with Red Sox fans and you're like, let's go beat that Yankees fans, you know, like, let's go beat them up, that's not okay. Like, that's too far. Like, you're, you know, those are the kind of things, when you get into those forms of thinking, now you've gone too far. And that's where, you know, unfortunately, like the people who've been involved in these things this last week, that's where they got into, you know, thinking of harming others, which is never, it doesn't matter what it is. That's not okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing with people. There's nothing wrong with having, like Henno said, a good discourse with people, even if it gets, you know, heated. You know, that's a whole different ballgame. But when it gets to the point that actual physical violence is going to happen, you know, it's like, okay, it's time to take a step back here. You know, this is too far. It's just too far. No matter what it is, religion, politics, sports, I don't care what the topic is, you know?
Yeah, when we get to the point of people getting hurt, it's over words. People getting hurt over words. Yeah. People losing lives over words. It's like,
well, they're over imaginary constructs, and I know that's getting a little high-minded, but that's basically what it is. It's people having fears over things that are literally in their head. And that's one of the things why people say, like, oh, well, then that definitely proves that they have a mental illness. There's something wrong with them. They aren't normal. And it's like, no, they are perfectly normal. They have brought up this topic with other people, and they've found a whole bunch of people that agree with them.
Yeah.
And they reinforce it every single day. that is no different than a lot of ways that I look at my own life.
It's no different than how many people believe in aliens, ghosts, things that a lot of people see as, or conspiracy theories or any of that kind of stuff. It's like, there's plenty of people who are not mentally ill in any way that believe in those kind of things, and it's that kind of thinking. It's, they believe in something that is just, a construct or something that's just whatever. And, again, it's perfectly fine as long as nobody's getting hurt in the process, it's, you're not spreading hatred and violence. That's, like I said, I don't care what your cause is. The hatred and violence stuff, it's just gotta stop. This is just not okay. Just over some really dumb stuff. I mean, no matter how bad a politician is, no matter how bad you or how angry you are about a religion, it's just not worth it to take somebody's life or hurt somebody over it. I just don't get it,
Mm-hmm. And that's where I've been having some, it's been a thought of mine because, as many people, it's like, I believe in free speech. Mm-hmm. I want people to have the opportunity to say what they believe and to, this is an interesting thing. So, confirmation bias and groupthink, right? Those two things have two things in our Constitution: freedom of speech, freedom of association, mm-hmm. right? So groupthink is freedom of association. I can associate with who I want to associate with. Mm-hmm. And I believe in that. And also being able to express oneself, even if your ideas and thoughts are abhorrent to some people, mm-hmm. you still have the right to express those things, and the government can't come in and tell you don't get. Now, that doesn't mean that your boss can't fire you, and mm-hmm. that doesn't mean that your friends aren't going to walk out, and that doesn't mean that a website where everyone was getting together and doing this, a social media site, doesn't lose all of their backing, which is what happened this weekend.
Yeah.
But I start to question then, well, how much further am I willing to go? Mm-hmm. And because I would rather see I would rather not find out after a bunch of people got killed that this guy was saying and thinking these things. Mm-hmm. Why weren't we finding him thinking and saying it wasn't hidden. It was out in the open. Mm-hmm. This was public. He was publicly expressing himself.
Yeah.
And many people do. And that's the other thing is like, there's a different, to me, I think of, doing this podcast for a while, I've learned a lot about the nature of mental illness. Mm-hmm. And I don't see people, yes, there are people with, there are people that, like that whole thing of like, well, maybe, if you hear voices in your heads, there's, or if, if you're paranoid and think someone's listening in on your conversations, well, maybe somebody's actually listening, you know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of a thing. And yes, there are these cases where people hear voices and the voices tell them to do that kind of stuff like that. Mm. But they're not on an internet website discussing it with other people.
Generally, no. If you notice, most
isolating.
of the ones, most of the people like that are isolated.
Exactly.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
People with depression are isolating.
Mm-hmm.
People with anxiety are isolating.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Mental illness is a very lonely disease.
I was going to say a lot of mental illnesses are very, create introversion, and not all of them. I don't want to blanket it. Not all of them, and not everyone. Just like when we're saying with the other, it's like that. There are people with mental illness who have committed, various acts against people. It's not that has not happened, but it's still, it has not been a 100% scenario. It hasn't been, so that's why these things need to change, is because it's in the same vein of comparing one, anything that happens that's an extreme and taking whatever group that person's from and saying everyone in that group is like that. That's just not right, And people with mental illness are already fighting a stigma to begin with, and this is just making it worse,
Yeah.
Cause now, like you said, not to mention, okay, picture if you're a person that reveals to your employer that you have mental illness. right? They're going to be watching you. They may not trust you the same. You know, there's going to be there could essentially be this like,
Stigma.
bias against you. I mean, literally, you know, from the beginning that you're dangerous or whatever, you know, and you may not be in any way, you know?
Yep. That's one reason I wanted to bring up this topic is like, if you hear somebody talking about this stuff, please defend those with mental illness because they can't defend themselves in most cases.
Yeah.
They really can't. They're busy, you know, they're busy dealing with their just day-to-day activities.
Yeah. And
right? They're like, how do I get groceries?
Yeah. How do I get out of bed?
How do I get out of bed? Exactly.
Like I said earlier,
they don't. Yeah, they don't have the mental bandwidth to go out there and defend themselves, and so I feel it's incumbent on those of us that do have some compassion for other people who struggle is to stand up for them and help them.
Well, I want to go another step here that I don't know that people are doing, and I've done it a couple times now, which is anytime I hear a politician use the mental illness garbage, like when they're using that as a scapegoat concept, it's right to them and let them know that's not okay.
Good. That's a great idea and a great tip.
That essentially you are, you know, that you are lumping people together, that, you know, you are slandering the people who suffer from this awful thing, that, you know, that are fighting hard to try to not have to suffer from this, you know, and you're lumping them in with that. Just because we share a similarity does not mean that all are like that. It'd be, you know, oh, this guy killed 20 people and he's got brown hair. Oh, now everybody with brown hair is awful. You know, it's like, no, that isn't how it works, you know?
And you're literally going down the list of distorted thinking.
Yeah.
You just brought up black and white thinking. You brought up objectification.
Yeah.
And then just confirmation bias in and of itself is on that list. Groupthink is on that list.
Yeah. Well, do you know what it reminds me of too? Okay, years and years and years ago, right? Like, I'm trying to think how to word this. If somebody was mentally handicapped in any way, in forever ago type days, right? If something wrong happened in town, they sometimes would get blamed to protect somebody else, right?
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of that. In that they're being used, mental illness people are being used, mental illness is being used as a scapegoat for whatever the real issues are. I'm not getting into anything further than that. It's just,
exactly.
It is truly the scapegoat of the scenario here, because it's not mental illness that's causing these things. And, you know, most of the time. And, you know, much like I said, like it's just like of Mice and Men just keeps running in my head, you know, just like you're just guilty because you just can't think right or whatever, but, you know, and it's not the case. It just really bothers me so much. So like I said, if you catch a politician in your area making statements like that, write to them and tell them how wrong that is and how not okay that is. You know?
Yeah, and then Brian, you brought up something earlier about the plus and negative checklist.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was great. Yeah, to the idea of and this is just turning confirmation bias back into like not national domestic terrorism,
right.
But just how it applies in our lives and how the one of the reasons I brought up the idea that it's okay to have bias is because, you know, we always will. But oftentimes what we'll do is we'll try to mask that bias by trying to say, and I'm plenty guilty of it, by trying to say how open-minded I am.
Yep.
And I'm willing to listen to other sides when the truth of the matter is I already have my outcome decided.
Yep. Well, this is what happened to me when I first went into therapy, right? I sat down and I was telling her how I always looked at everything logically. I took great pride in how I always looked at things logically until she was like, yeah, except you don't, because here's what you're looking for this, you're looking for this, you're looking for, and that's exactly what it is. I was looking for confirmation of my bias there. Like, I was looking for a reason not to do something. So as soon as that reason was there, bang. Well, that makes sense. Of course, why would I go do that when this is whatever, right?
You were doing it. You were doing confirmation bias.
Yep.
Logically.
Yep. Totally thinking I'm being logical, not realizing what I'm doing is heavily distorting my thinking.
Yep.
Sure.
And, using confirmation bias along the way. So I totally get that one. Like, that's why I said that was why the distorted thinking thing blew my brains out when it did, because I was just like, oh my goodness, it's like, it just made me realize just how illogical I actually had been this whole time, But yeah, what I told Heno about was, I was listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast, which I've brought up a bunch of times, and he was mentioning that a friend of his said he quit doing like plus minus lists, or I can't remember if it was plus minus lists or something, but it was pretty much those kind of things, And the reason he did was he said that, basically whenever you do them, you're always trying to talk yourself into a bad idea or out of a good idea. And, basically that again, you're trying to confirm a bias one way or the other. And so he said he just completely quit doing those. That way he wouldn't, he'd have a better chance of, if talking himself out of a bad idea instead, rather than talking himself out of a good idea, Yeah,
I just thought it was such a great, it demonstrates how, even though we are trying to do our best to, come up with new solutions to our problems in daily life, and one of them often is to do some writing and to come up with a list of positives or negatives or, pluses or minuses. And that even in doing so, even though we feel like we're being open-minded about it, maybe in truth we aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've learned, and especially in recovery, I've been around, long enough to see myself go through periods where I was talking and not walking the walk.
Yeah.
I was saying all the right things, but I wasn't living the right things.
Mm-hmm.
I was going in and talking what I felt, I want people to hear, but I wasn't necessarily living it. And the same thing goes, it's like the whole, Dr. Heal Thyself.
Yeah.
Thine own self is, having great advice to give everybody, but then turning around and not doing it myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I think that's one of those, I've done that enough where I need to be on my guard on these things.
Yeah.
It's like, where am I not being true? That's why I like putting stuff back to early recovery for myself, where I was having those aha moments, where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, where I hit that bottom, because it was about as pure a thought that I had. It was about the most purest will I had too, where it's just, I just wanted to get better, and I was willing to do anything to get better.
Yeah.
And that's why that's why a lot of people don't like to go to 12-step meetings, because that's what they hear over and over again. Well, that's why we talk about those periods, because it was where honesty was about as real as it could get.
Mm-hmm.
Where our true path was there. We weren't thinking of, sure, we wanted our lives to get better and, maybe not lose a job, not lose a relationship. But the reality was it was like, speaking for myself, I didn't lose my job. Yes, I was going to lose a relationship, but mostly I just lost my self-respect.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, that was enough. I wanted to feel like I was worthy of respect again. I wanted to feel like I was worthy of trust again. Those are real basic, simple things.
Yeah.
And so today, when I allow my desires, wants, and needs, and fears also, fear of losing something, or fear of not getting something that I crave or desire, that's where I can start using confirmation bias and distorted thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm slipping back.
Right. It's interesting you said about the about the aha moments and going back to like kind of missing that and stuff. I was just thinking about that, like with therapy, how I've been going, a couple years now, roughly. And I don't get those aha moments anymore. Like, you remember when I was first going and every time I came back, I'm like, this happened and my brain was like, oh, whatever. Mm-hmm. And now it's more of just, like I said before, it's more like just gently nudging me, kind of keeping on the path. And it was like, I hadn't thought about that. And I was like, you're right. It's like, it was so much you're so stripped down when you're at that point. That pretty much anything you're told, you're just like, that is brilliant. That's amazing. Yeah. Oh my God. And now I'm at that point that it's not like that, but you do see where you were to where you've come. But now it also makes sense why a lot of people at some point go, therapy doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah.
Or they quit therapy when they hit probably the point I'm at because they don't have those aha moments anymore. There's not the instant gratification, essentially.
Yeah.
You don't walk out of therapy now and go, I do. I still feel good coming out of there, but it's not the same as when I was first going,
Yeah.
So,
I think that's why it's good to, if there was something that you read in back in the beginning, go read it again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I am always opening my books all the time. And if something, especially what I like is like when we're having a conversation or I'm having a conversation with other sober people or whatever, and something just kind of rings into my head and I go, oh, and I open up the book because I remember, reading something, or I'll make go out, say, okay, I haven't been doing much reading. I want to jump into this chapter again. And I will always find something that makes me go, oh yeah, and applies. And I think that's that there is no book when it comes to improving on ourselves that can't be read over and over again.
Yeah.
And you're going to get something out of it. It's going to remind you of those times again where you had those epiphanies and those, those little shots.
Right. Or even just like, like an athlete, they constantly, like a baseball player or a golf player, they always have like a swing coach or whatever. But sometimes, like the coach will go back and look at the film and be like, and they'll just notice that one little thing, like, hey, you're getting your elbow a little higher than normal. And there it is. That's all. You just need that little, and like you're saying, when you're reading stuff, sometimes you'll just find that little, and you're like, you know what? I don't do that anymore. And that's just that little something you needed and, or whatever. And, that's why I keep that distorted thinking worksheet is right here on my desk.
Right there. Yep.
So that every once in a while I'll just pick it up and I'll just go over it again. Just to make sure that I'm not blurring the lines anywhere, that I'm not just, just
do work.
Yeah. That way I'm still making sure that I'm trying.
Well, guys, I think this is a pretty great episode. Covered a lot of ground.
I feel like we seriously over-talked you, Jen.
You guys are good. No worries. So, are we good?
I think we are.
All right.
Yeah, if you guys have any thoughts on this or just, send us a message and say, heck yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to hear from you.
We would.
Yeah, send us messages and tell us that we were right. Confirm our bias.
Yeah. Confirm our bias for us. Or definitely tell us, you know what, you're wrong on this thing. Because you know what, we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
Yes. We'd love to hear you. Pros, cons, and all the good stuff in between. So reach out to us. You can reach us at our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can reach us at our email address at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. You can reach us on Twitter, and you can reach me on Twitter at ditswithdtits, and Jen's Crazy Life, and that's Jen with a G. And Henno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. You can find me on Facebook at Henno Heiter. You can send me a friend request there and join with me in my little world of confirmation bias on politics.
Also, how can people listen to your other podcasts?
Oh yeah, and we're getting back out there with our Gotham Lights and Orville Orville Lights podcast. You can find us on any of the players that are out there. And if you want to have some fun talking about some television.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Mine's Shake the Sheets. It's a news and entertainment podcast, conversational format. So just me and my co-host sitting down talking about what's going on in the world and our thoughts and feelings. It's pretty awesome. And I'd love to hear you guys listen.
All right. You can also find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find our Facebook page over at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. So come over and join us, please. And you can find me on Twitter at StuNami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, and it's me and my best friend, or sometimes Henno, jumping in and just talking about kind of whatever crosses our attention span in life, basically. and Tony gets sleepy a lot. So he's back to sleepy this week.
Oh, no. We have a low battery episode to look forward to tomorrow morning.
Not as bad as before. Okay. I think we say on the show we're at 30% strength or something like that. Did I forget? No. Oh, we're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. If you'd like to help the show out, we'd really appreciate it if you rate, review, or subscribe to the show. If you have not already, or just please retweet our tweets with the show links, or, join our Facebook group and share with your friends. It'd mean lots to us and stuff. And then, of course, as usual, as usual, I say to reach out to, people and tell them that you care and that you love them. Just reach out to the ones you haven't talked to in a while, or the ones have gone through some tough stuff lately. But also reach out to the others. I noticed there's a meme that's been getting a heavy rotation lately that says, to reach out to your friends who are always smiling, and it shows like Chris Farley and Robin Williams and Brittany Murphy, and I forgot there's somebody else on there, because of them constantly smiling, but they all all are dead. So make sure you talk to the friends that always tell you that they're fine also, because sometimes you'll have friends like that just are terrible at sharing and, talking about feelings. So not that I know anyone like that, but, he won't listen. Shoot. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. And just like I've been saying the last few weeks, just try to put some good vibes out there. If you're feeling down, try to do something nice for somebody else. I mean, even if you're feeling good, do something nice for somebody else. I mean, there's just nothing wrong with it, but do something nice for yourself too,
That's right. Share the positivity.
Definitely.
Share the love, folks. Enjoy and have a wonderful week.